Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining another episode of Authenticity Amplified. It's a series I started a while back, and I'm just grateful to be able to continue it and to bring new voices into the conversation, such as Carmen with me today. As usual, we like to ease in gently into these. So I know some folks have tagged this and want to join it live, but they might be transitioning from another meeting or just want to need a bathroom break or get a snack. So please be kind to yourself. If you need to do that, you have 5 whole minutes to do that as I share a little bit more about our conversation today. So, as mentioned, you're joining conversation around rest, right? Specifically, why doesn't rest always feel restful? Like even when you plan for it with full intention, and I think the thing we want to explore more today in nuance is that struggle behind what happens when we choose to pause, what happens when we want to slow down, but we realize we can't slow down. So, more practically speaking, if you're someone who's like planning a sabbatical, starting a vacation, coming back from maternity leave, or anything that's like a longer period of like deemed rest, we hope that you will be able to get some helpful insights today on like how to bring more of that into your day to day so you don't have to schedule it and shove it into a corner of your life for it to happen. So really grateful to have this conversation with you all today. Quick reminders of the agreements of usually when we have these conversations, just two gentle reminders that like this is one of many, many takes. Like rest is a big topic. There's a lot of experts on it. So we just hope to bring the two perspectives that we have today and share that with you all. And also to keep an open mind that often the topics we bring into these conversations, they're not going to change or miraculously like snap into place within the span of like 24 hours, let alone not an hour of conversation that we're going to have today. So be gentle with yourself with the process, and you're welcome to start incorporating anything you hear today and just continue to stay curious about what shows up for you. All right. So while folks are joining in, and actually, if you are already here with us, like please drop a comment into the chat. Like what is rest for you? If there's an upcoming rest you're coming, and what do you hope out of your rest period that's coming along? While we dive into introductions. So Carmen, would you be able to say hello to our audience today?
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you, Betty. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for folks who are joining either today or later on when it makes more sense. So my name is Carmen Iñiguez. I use she, her, ella pronouns. I wear a few different titles. I'm a leadership coach, and I'm also a licensed psychotherapist, a consultant, and facilitator. But underneath it all, my work is about helping women of color in particular, lead and live from a place that feels rooted and resourced and aligned. I bring
Mm,
particular aspects to my work. On the one hand, I bring things like tools, how to have healthy conversations or courageous conversations, setting boundaries, leading with clarity. And I also bring the other aspect, which for me is very important, also bringing in the body, bringing in the nervous system, the ancestors, the
mm,
spirit guides, because we can't have those things be separate. And it's part of the impact that we have in the world.
Yes, well said. Because whenever I think we ask each other, like, do you feel rested? I think a lot of us answer with our heads as opposed to our bodies, which, rest comes in through the shape of our bodies as well. So, really excited to have you here and your perspective. We've talked a lot. Actually, oh, I'm so sorry, everyone. I forgot my
Yes,
introduction.
no.
So, let me not jump ahead.
I
For
am
those
just
of you,
ready.
yes. Hopefully, most people joining in are aware of who I am. But for those of you who are new to this space, like welcome, welcome. Really always glad to know more people who are on their journey of authenticity. But my name is Betty Chan. I am an authenticity life coach. I also facilitate workshops and do speaking events as well. And I primarily jam on two topics, right? Authenticity. What the heck does that actually look like in the day to day life of it? And also how we embrace gentleness as an everyday strength. So, the work I do with a lot of my clients is around how do we live, how do we lead, and how do we love without having to hide who we are? How do we embrace those contradictions of ourselves so we don't feel like we have to segment what part of us shows up and feeling like we don't have the permission to be all of ourselves. And that includes the amazing, poised version, as well as the messy one who needs a couch potato every few weeks, like myself, in order to. So this conversation, I hope, especially for the clients I work with, like the code switchers, the quiet powerhouses, and exhausted achievers, like this is a topic near and dear for all of us. And a big part of like when we talk about, we want to tap back into our purpose, we want to reconnect with our potential, but oftentimes we forget that when we do it from a place of exhaustion, that becomes much more challenging than it needs to be. So that's a little bit about me and who I work with. But yeah, on to the topic today of rest. I was chomping at it. I was like, oh my God, we need to talk about this. Like, this is a topic that I feel like we plan for PTO all the time, but I think I hear so often from people, I'm like, oh, that 2 week was not enough, or that even like that sabbatical of 3 months was like not enough. And I always find that interesting to hear. It's like, what are we all missing in that case? So I guess, Carmen, I'll just start off with like either for yourself or, in the work that you do, like what do you see comes up as like the struggle for when we slow down?
Mhm. A couple of things come up immediately. One is all of the noise that you've been out running catches up to you.
Oh, yes.
And I think the best example is the lockdown during COVID. There
Mm,
was not enough Netflix, not enough distraction to outrun all of the things that we had been ignoring, putting aside, pushing aside.
mhm,
That's one. I think the other thing that comes up is the tenderness and the feelings that feel maybe a little bit heavier, like grief
mm,
or sadness or disappointment. It's
mm,
almost like wanting to avoid feeling that discomfort. And so we fill in the space, right? So slowing down,
mhm.
like I don't go to work 9 to 5 or however I work. And now I have all this time and I'm going to find something else to fill it with.
Yes. Yeah. It's like we're running away from something that's like has been in our space and has fully caught up with us, but we've just been like constantly pushing it to the side. I'm like, I don't need to look at this now because there's more urgent things such as like client emails and deadlines or picking up my kids from school and so forth. So I definitely feel you in that. Something I hear a lot and have been experiencing myself this year a bit more too is the battle with boredom, like
Mm,
not knowing what to do with myself when I'm bored, or then feeling like this oxymoronic thing of like, okay, I need to be productive about my boredom. And I'm like, wait, like what? I thought I was here to rest. Why do I need to be productive about my rest as well? But I see it all the time of like, how do I maximize my rest? How do I maximize my vacation? And I
yes.
think in that process, I think some of that instinct that I've identified for myself and my clients is that that comes up because it's the first break you've had in a very long time. So all those things you were saying can wait a little later, it can wait for the next day, it can wait for the next year, starts to build up and it literally feels like pressure. So the moment you have a little space, it like just falls right into that space and then overwhelms that space as well.
Isn't it funny that boredom is a bad thing? Right. And
Mhm,
so when in our regular lives, when we're super busy,
mhm.
we're not bored. And as soon as we rest,
Yeah,
now I'm bored.
yeah.
And that's a bad thing. Right.
Mhm,
Versus what is this? I see boredom as a symptom of not having slowed down. When you're bored, it's that you've associated productivity and
mhm,
output with your life. And so
mhm,
now that I'm not required to put anything out to be productive, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm
mhm.
I'm bored. I think a sister to that is when you're bored because you haven't actually had the space to consider what you would do if you had rest.
Yes.
What creative pursuits might you take on if you
Mhm.
allowed yourself the space to be bored, to
Yeah,
empty space?
yeah. To follow the thread of excitement, right? It's like, "Oh, I'm curious about this thing." Let yourself follow that as opposed to, "Oh, I gotta finish this thought in 5 minutes because I have another meeting to go to," which most of us are trained for. And I do think, like, going back to the body, something I try to say is like an act of kindness for myself too is, that, I have been doing that for a long time. That has been my mode of being for a very long time. Like, when I worked in 9 to 5 before I started my own business, I was the person who everyone knew she's gonna come in and she's gonna be in the meeting rooms all day. Her desk is gonna not be sat in at all because she's just running between 8 hours straight of meetings, and then I start doing the rest of the work. So when I was saying about being kind with the bathroom breaks earlier, I meant that personally. I was a person who had a hard time going to the bathroom between
Mhm.
all the meetings. So just like letting your body realize, like, oh, I don't have to jump to the next thing, that I am actually safe, that I am worthy still, and I don't need to define myself by output every minute or every hour of my day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, that reminds me a bit of a little bit of like where it's learned. And I'm kind of curious about your take too, Carmen. Like, because so much of it is like that is a practice way of doing, which explains why it might be hard. But
Yes.
just to help us, because sometimes I feel like it's hard to let go of something, even though I really want rest. I still struggle to let go fully, to like really trust that boredom, to trust that
Mhm.
space. And I think part of it is like we can't let go of something if we don't know we're still holding on to it.
Mhm.
Right. So
Mhm.
just what are some of the things, you've seen people hold on to that makes it so hard? Like they're not even fully aware of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is conditioning, and a lot of
Mhm.
it is what was modeled to you in your family. Um,
Mm,
I think in particular, folks who grew up in immigrant families, folks who are immigrant, there's such a like work culture, a hustle culture. Like
mhm.
I know that I experienced this, and I know a lot of people who've experienced this, where you don't see your mom ever sitting down,
Oh, yes.
always doing
Even
something,
housewife moms, they're always doing something. Yeah.
always doing something,
Mhm.
right? And also there's always something to be done is what my mom would say, right? Because I would say like, "Mom,
Mm.
like, if she was complaining about an ache in her back or that she was tired, I'm like, "Sit
Mhm.
down." And she would be like, "Well, who's going to do all these things?" Which I think is a fair question and
Yeah.
a broader question and conversation around, at least in my family, the gender roles and norms and
Mhm.
expectations.
Mhm.
But there's always the sense of like having being busy, being busy,
Mm.
and we give it an excuse because the things that we're busy doing are good things, are needed things. But it's almost like we don't know how to sit still. But I think
Mhm.
a lot of it is like, what do we see modeled in our families of origin? And,
Mhm.
what associations do we have with it? Like, what is the
Yeah.
feeling behind rest?
Yeah. I love these conversations because it gets me to think about and reflect as well. Because I definitely, even though in my household, the gender roles were a little flipped, meaning my dad often did the cleaning and the cooking,
Ah,
but neither of them stopped. Or like when they did stop, the only way I could see them stopping is sleeping, um, or them watching TV, right? It's not really like going on vacation, exploring things, starting a project, reconnecting with friends. So it's like my options from an early day of modeling of like, okay, what do you do when you rest? What do you do when you take time off? Becomes a very narrow list of options from there too. Mhm.
I just had this like memory come into my head right now of hearing somewhere in my family, maybe not my mom, but somewhere in the family, I'll rest when I die.
Oh,
Right? Like,
ouch.
right? Like that's when, because there's so much to be done, or I want to
Yeah.
do so much.
Mhm.
I'll rest when I die,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is not at all what we want to encourage.
No, no, and there's like a glory to it too. It's like,
Yes,
yeah, I
yes.
don't sleep. I hustle really hard. Like, look how hard I'm pushing myself. And I hear this sometimes tied into like your life is like you want to maximize the potential of your life. And while my parents have never said this, I do feel like it's like an undertone in a lot of immigrant households of like, we already feel so behind
Uh-huh.
coming to America at a later age that everything we do, every minute of our day feels like a catch up to
Mhm.
things, right? So there's this belief that like we are behind compared to our peers,
Mhm.
which, as we know, you can like the one helpful thing my mom did say to me as like a idiom of sorts is like life is like a hand with fingers, right? Like if everyone next to you, there's a shorter one and there's a taller one.
Mm.
So it's just knowing that like when you compare to peers, there's depending on what lens and what angle you're looking at, you're either behind or you're ahead. So, but there's this general feeling of like, okay, we're coming in at a later stage to be Americans, to create this American dream, and that it can feel like we're behind in that
Yeah.
sense too. So that's
Running
a
out
reminder of
of
that.
time, behind,
Mhm.
but running out of time for what? Or behind
Yeah.
for what?
What?
Like,
Yeah.
do we ever slow down enough to ask ourselves and to inquire, what is it that we're
Mhm.
striving for? But it's almost
Mhm.
like this, like nervous energy of like, oh, I don't even want to sit down to think about what I'm trying to, because I'm gonna miss out on more time.
Mhm. Mhm. Or people who work so hard to go on vacation. And then I'm like, "But then you're too tired to be on your vacation." And then you come back and you're even more tired. So
Yeah.
I love the question of like, for what? To like constantly, not in a overdoing it way, but like regularly check in with yourself of like, why am I doing X, Y, and Z for? And just to get clear about that. And you can ask that for about rest too, right? Like, why am I choosing to rest? Like, what did I want to get out of this? And sometimes it's to truly recharge, right? So it's just like a space to stop thinking about the things that are churning every day. Sometimes it's to reconnect with a place, reconnect with the people in your lives, especially around the holiday seasons. So getting clear on that for what is a really helpful way, at least for me and my clients, to like tap into like a more present state when
Yeah.
we're resting as well.
Yeah. I think it's also really important not to conflate time off with rest, and that
Mhm.
not all rest is restorative. Like,
Yes.
oftentimes when we take time off and we come back from said vacation or said sabbatical or a said long weekend, there's
Mhm.
a sense of like, I'm still tired. I didn't feel restored. I didn't feel
Mhm.
rested.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really well put, especially so. What have you found helps people tap into that truly restorative rest?
I think restoration is about coming in this way, coming in
Mhm.
towards yourself,
Mhm.
connecting to your inner voice, connecting to your physical being, your body. I think a lot of times in this culture, we live from the neck up.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
in our heads so much that I don't have this problem, but people forget to eat. I'm like, how did you forget to eat?
Guilty.
Like, my stomach and I don't feel so
Yeah.
great. But people
Mhm.
forget to eat. People don't go to
Mhm.
the bathroom. They're sleeping
Mhm.
a few hours. I think restoration is about slowing down, connecting
Mhm.
to yourself, turning down the volume. You and I were talking about that a little bit earlier today before we started recording, or I'm sorry,
Mhm.
before we started getting on this
Mhm.
recording today. Slowing down enough that
Yeah.
you can feel your body from the inside out. You
Mhm.
connect to your inner voice that doesn't reside here, but resides here in your heart.
Mhm.
And doing things that are simply for pleasure
Mm.
and play and joy
Mhm.
and just feeling alive. And I think we all have had those experiences in our lives, especially when we're younger, when we're kids, right?
Mhm.
There's something that happens in that transition, certainly after college, as we are becoming professionals and going for our careers, that we forget how to play. We forget how to
Mhm.
have fun and how to really be in the actual world, not on a screen.
Yeah. Yeah. And to just allow yourself to stay curious and to respond to what's around you. And the response is interesting because we both talked about response before we hopped on this, and it's we chose, and I would say choose, because there's a part of us subconsciously choosing when we're in the 9 to 5, when we're not in a so-called time off period. We're choosing productivity, we're choosing to move things forward, we're choosing progress in a very like tangible outcome, capitalistic based way. And I think that is fine because all of us, like a part of fulfillment is also being able to accomplish things on paper in a visible way as well. But I think the missing part of fulfillment often that is tied into rest is that we also need to feel a deep sense of pride of who we're becoming, right? And it's hard to be conscious of that. It's hard to choose that with full awareness when we're responding to the urgency. And a lot of times it's false urgency in front of us. The boss that says this needs to be done yesterday, right? The client who's like, well, why aren't you on it and haven't you delivered that? But it's just being able to recognize that there's room to respond to what's in front of you for that, and also room to like creating the space to also respond to, as you mentioned, like inwardly, like what are those things that I haven't been saying out loud that I need, that I want to experience, that because of it, it's like everything else and everyone's needs volumes is tuned so high and my volume is so low. And learning like truly restorative time off allows you to recalibrate those volumes a bit more.
Yeah. And
Mhm,
I want to layer on something here because I'm a parent and a lot of people that I work with, clients are also parents, in
mhm,
particular when they're parents to younger children,
mhm,
don't get a lot of time and space to rest, right? In the way that maybe you would, or even a dependent if you're taking care of elderly people or a sibling or someone who is disabled, right? There's a different way that we need to look at rest also in those cases.
mhm.
I think that sometimes we want to look at rest as like a beach, and sunbathing and, a cocktail.
Yeah.
And rest is not something that belongs exclusively to vacations and
Mhm,
sabbaticals, which are more elusive,
mhm,
or long weekends. Rest is
mhm,
also the way that we engage in our daily life, right?
mhm,
Um, how much is enough to have done in one day, in one week? I think
mhm,
there's also room here to talk about there's particular roles where you don't get to sign off 9 to 5, um,
mhm,
where
mhm,
you're maybe doing longer shifts, or there are seasons of work where there's high volume of work, right? And so
mhm,
accounting for those things too, and that it doesn't look the same for everybody. And it certainly can't be something that we do over here, right? At the end of this long work period.
mhm. Yeah, and I think we're often taught to like the delayed gratification of it. Some of it is great, but when it's delayed for too long, then you're actually withholding stuff that you need to actually keep going, right? Just understanding like where can you bring that back into the everyday. Because even when you mention like the beach, and I'm thinking of, yeah, most people, when they think of vacation or time off or taking some rest from work or just even from everyday life, if you're at home caring for the family members that you have, um, going to the beach seems to be a very common thing. Or like go to the park, like go outside. And I realize I'm like, that's actually something I need every day.
Mhm.
And I know somebody would look at me and be like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You're going to the beach every day." I'm like, "Okay, but what are the things on a beach that I'm actually getting?" Right? It's actually reconnecting with nature. It's feeling the sun on my skin. It's hearing the waves and like, just experiencing the elements with
Yes.
a little more presence than I would normally do when I'm inside the home, for example. So
Mhm.
I think what really helps is sometimes when you want to bring that vacation feeling into your everyday life, stop and consider like, what about that vacation makes me love it so much? What about it makes me yearn for it so much? And break it down to the components that make that vacation, and see if you can invite that into every day
I
because we
love
we do. assume. Yeah, we assume we need to have like 2 concentrated weeks of it to be worthwhile. I'm like, but my argument is like, you can't actually keep going unless you have a little dose of it every day.
Agreed, agreed. And I think some of what you get on vacation, if you can identify and bring the essence of it back with you, right? So like
Mhm,
if on vacation you were drinking your morning coffee outside on a terrace or on a balcony, can you
mm,
bring that practice to your home? Maybe I don't have a balcony, but I'm sitting quietly without scrolling, without
mhm,
listening to anything.
mhm,
If there was just an easier pace, a slower pace of eating while you were on vacation, people's
mhm,
dietary preferences and changes happen during vacation, right? People find themselves sort of eating slower. There's no hurry
mhm,
to get to something, right? If you can bring
mhm.
that back to one meal a day where you're
Yeah.
slowing down and being more mindful.
Yes. Yes. You don't have to do perfectly. You don't have to do it consistently, but constantly inviting yourself back to like, oh, where can I fit a little vacation into today? And like letting your past vacations that you did enjoy or past time off to inspire you because we often do seek for it, thinking it'll be restorative. But it's going to be even more restorative if you can bring it in a smaller dose on a daily basis.
Yeah, I've had a couple of clients who've been on sabbatical while I've worked with them. And,
Hmm.
the next time that I see them when they're back at work, literally they are glowing, right? Like if
Hmm.
you've done a sabbatical and you've done it well, meaning that you rested, that you
Hmm.
it was a restorative time, there is like this glow to them, and they're smiling big, and there's always
Hmm.
that worry of like, okay, well, I had that time off and I won't get that time anytime soon again.
Hmm.
How do I bring this back, right? And that bringing those small practices, right? Like
Hmm.
having boundaries around when your laptop closes for the day, when you're
Hmm.
no longer responding to emails or text messages. How
Hmm.
do you protect, right? Protecting your time off, bringing some of that energy, that vacation sort of juice to the weekends,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Hmm.
so going to the forest here, in the Bay Area and where you're at, there's a lot of nature near us, right? So
Hmm.
bringing a little bit of that back with us is so important.
Yes, definitely. And actually, you reminded me of something that I often tell my clients. I'm like, don't steal from your own vacation, right? Because a lot of that glow goes away so quickly sometimes is because, and it feels like it only lasts 2 hours and takes you 2 weeks to get the glow, right? Because you're opening that laptop right away. You're allowing those messages and everything to come in. And yes, I understand the pressure to respond is very high, but if you can plan the 2 week vacation, my argument is you can also plan a gentler transition time between like take a day, you don't have to say a completely non working day, but can you take a day with no calls and like communicate that courageously to your team so they understand that that is part of what you want to build? Because I recognize that when you give yourself a little bit longer to linger with your vacation vibes, your body actually starts to do a better job of recognizing what that rest is. And I think sometimes our body needs to learn, like, okay, if it's been in a tense state for so long, does it understand what an untense state is and how to recreate that for ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think you can bring that into your daily life also. I was recently working with a client who also, again, parent, young children, doing all
Hmm.
the things in the morning. And we were talking about the moment that, we all have miniature computers or phones with us all the time, or we have smartwatches.
Smartwatches, yeah.
So we're constantly being bombarded with the
Hmm.
vibrations of our phones, of our watches, with text messages, with emails. We're
Hmm.
talking about how to create a little bit of a buffer to ease into the day as much as we can ease in when we have young children and we're getting ourselves
Yeah.
out the door and them out the door. But, this idea of feeling like we have to respond immediately when we
Hmm.
get a text message,
Mhm.
And when we get those buzzing feelings, the phone, the watch, your levels of stress immediately, your cortisol levels go up.
Yes.
And what we were talking about was that, and if you're in the morning commute, you're not going to be able to respond to that message anyways. So why
Mhm.
don't we practice turning off the notifications in the morning or not looking at your email until you've come back from dropping
Mhm.
children, you've come
Mhm.
in, you've gone to the
Mhm.
bathroom, refreshed whatever you're drinking, and then
Mhm.
take a moment to breathe and then
Yes.
open the emails
Yes.
more
Yeah.
intentionally.
And I want to double tap on that for my productivity junkies out there, right? My high achievers who are exhausted, burned out, and like you got that pride of like how much you can push through and how much you can hustle through as well. Because I remember the lie I used to tell myself when I'm still a recovering hustler. There are days where like the mindsets are still seeped deep in my bones in that case, which is like, oh, it'll go faster if I can multitask,
Oh,
which it's like maybe for that one time, but if I am doing that on a regular basis again and again, I am literally I now imagine it's like I'm actually creating these little tears in my brain because I'm asking it to be in two places at once for a prolonged time. And that actually makes me less effective over time. So if speed and productivity is something that is valued in your life, watch out for the lies that we tell ourselves around the small hacks because they are meant to be very, very short term and they're not designed to be long term solutions.
I love that
Mhm.
you're saying the lies that we tell ourselves because one, we are really good liars to
Mhm.
ourselves. And also, we are also onto ourselves. When we're telling ourselves those lies, there's
Mhm.
a part of us, the observer in us, that
Mhm.
clocks that we're lying. And
Mhm.
then we're like, okay, but I'm ignoring you because I am committed to doing things in this way.
Mhm. Mhm. The comfort in something familiar, and this is something I say a lot to my clients because 'cause I'm like, we always go back. It's a very natural default to go back to what's in our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing for a lot of us, especially the hustlers, the high achievers, the first gen folks, right? When what is inside your comfort zone is not always comfortable. Right.
Mhm.
So it could be actually pushing yourself too hard, constantly self abandoning the things that you know you need, but like you're going to put aside because you've been taught or you've been conditioned to think that, like, I got to put everyone else before myself. Or sometimes it's from a more egotistical thought that I've caught myself having, like, oh my God, if I'm not involved in everything, like everything's going to break down. I've seen this in my clients all the time of, well, you crave that support, you crave that community, but you're not allowing that to actually take root if you're constantly in those spaces yourself. So yeah, a lot of those little lies that come up for us. Yeah,
Little white
definitely.
lies we tell ourselves.
Mhm, mhm. Karma, for yourself or even for folks you work with, I'm kind of curious, like when there is unstructured time, right? When we are hitting that boredom streak, what are some gentle things we can do or say for ourselves to help ease into it?
I think starting with recognizing the discomfort,
Mhm,
naming it to ourselves.
mhm,
I am feeling really uncomfortable with this
mhm,
unstructured time. I find myself in that place too. I find that sometimes, I don't know if this has happened to you, but when I have back to back calls in one day, what I catch
mhm.
myself saying is, I wish I had more time. And I can think about like two or three things that I
Yeah.
really want to do.
Yes.
And then the days where I have like a chunk of time where I don't have anything scheduled, but
Mhm,
there's things that can be done, I have
mhm.
the hardest time.
Doing the thing we said we don't wanna do. Yes.
I'm like, how is it possible? I had these two
Uh-huh.
things that I really wanted to do. And
Mhm,
so what I find is that has been helpful for me is to acknowledge, okay, here I am in this place. Isn't that what?
mhm,
Oh, look at that. I'm in this
mhm,
place where I have unstructured time and I'm feeling really uncomfortable with it.
Mm,
Okay. So sometimes what helps me is to literally go outside into my
mm,
backyard and be outside with the plants and looking at the sky, or we have lots of hummingbirds in our backyard.
mhm.
um,
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it helps to I really love oracle cards, so sometimes I'll pull an oracle card and see if there's
Mhm,
a message that I'm needing.
mhm,
um, Something that allows me again to feel less bombarded by input
mhm,
and more reconnecting again to myself. And
mm,
usually, when that happens, when I can reconnect to myself, I can make a clear decision about what, if anything, I want to do with that unstructured time.
mhm. Yeah. 'Cause I think the thing I don't hear often enough, and I want more people to say out loud, is that we do have the answers. We do know what to do. A part of us can trust that, but we're constantly kind of overwhelming that voice inside of us. We're not connected to it. We don't know how to recognize or hear it, because we're constantly looking outward. Oh, what is this person doing? What was that thing that I was missing? How do I critique myself over here and improve on it? I'm all for experimentation improvement, but it has to come from also like you have to include yourself in that input as well, as opposed to overvaluing everyone else's and their mother's opinion on what to do. So I think that's a muscle, right? And I feel a lot of folks when they come work with me on authenticity, it's like, I know how to make decisions every day. I'm a VP of this company. I'm like, but yet we don't know how to trust ourselves in
Mhm.
that moment. So part of it is like we've lost that touch and it is a muscle. Just like a skill of public speaking, learning to listen to yourself is also a skill that we have to build and a muscle that you can build at any age for that matter.
Yeah, it's inherent to us. We all
Yeah.
have that inner voice, whether you call it the higher self or intuition. We all
Mhm.
have internal guidance that we are really good at ignoring,
Yeah.
especially if it doesn't come from a place of logic, right? Um, but it's just a practice. It's a
Mhm.
remembering that we do have that ability.
Yeah, yeah. And I find it often is easy to remember when I have at least a handful of people in my life who know how to do that as well, right? Because most of us, especially in workplaces, are surrounded by the very cerebral thinkers. And that makes sense in that
Mhm.
environment. I'm not saying like one way is better than the other, but just knowing that we do tend to walk through a day that primarily leans on fact based, visible, tangible logic, and we do sometimes need those influences and models in our life of like, okay, how do we make a gut based decision? How do we honor the cues that are coming from our body? Like, my back's been hurting. Get up off the chair, walk around, stretch a little, right? Like, I am really, really upset at 5 o'clock in the winter coming out of meetings. Why is that? Oh, it's because there's no sunlight, right?
Yeah.
Like, go get some sunlight, right? So it sounds, I don't mean to belittle it, but we are usually the first to ignore some of that more intuitive and body-based information, and I do think it's just as valuable of information as the stats and everything else that we have coming from our phones and our devices. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Any other insights or struggles that you think would be helpful to share with our audience today?
Yeah, just a reminder that rest can be medicine and
Mhm.
mirror.
Mm,
That it can bring up lots of things that we're ignoring and we don't want to look at. And it can also be just what we need, just the right medicine
yeah.
to slow down, to reconnect with ourselves. And again, that it doesn't have to look like a vacation, it doesn't have to look like a sabbatical. Absolutely do those,
Mhm.
but bringing in elements of rest
Mm.
out the week can really help us even better enjoy when we do have longer periods of rest.
Yeah. And, like, take inspiration from the marathon runners, right? It's like if you do wanna go far, especially if you're in mission-driven work or you have a project that is not going to be completed within a short period of time, like, Marathon, I would not know. I'm not a marathon runner. I cannot even run 2 miles. But from the marathon running that I have seen and the athletes I've worked with, the importance of incorporating rest as part
Mm,
of your strategy to keep going, right?
yeah,
So, like, if you need that reframe of like rest is not weak, rest is not optional, like it is just as important as your meeting, just as important as your breakfast, just as important as everything else that you value on a regular basis if you want to go further and you want to go there with more clarity and less deviation. I do
yes.
think it's helpful to start embracing it that way.
I love that metaphor of I'm also not a marathoner. I did do one marathon many, many
Oh
years
my
ago.
goodness.
It was I walked and ran through that thing
Mm.
in Hawaii. I think the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. But I was thinking about bodybuilders also, or weightlifting, right?
Yeah.
Weightlifting,
Yeah.
you don't weightlift every day without rest. It's
Hmm.
critical for the muscles that we're building, whether it's a practice or actual muscle building, that there
Hmm.
is rest built into your practice.
Hmm. Definitely. And you know what? I can feel some folks listening to us right now, eye rolling at me. That's totally fine. This is it, like it took me, I remember hearing this insight and then it took me years to really start believing it. And I would just say be kind to yourself in the process. There's a reason why rest is hard. Our society has built it that way for us to squeeze every little thing of productivity out of us as we can, but most of us want a little more meaning in our life than just being able to hit that next deadline, and just understanding that having the space to reconnect with what that is for you and being able to actually do it in a way that might look a little non-traditional is exactly the medicine that most of us need. But it's going to feel a little challenging. We're going to feel a little lost when we try to be like, okay, I know I need to rest, but how do I rest? Kind of thing, because we do lack models right now, but you can be that person to change that for yourself as well as everyone around you.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
wanted to add one more thing, that rest isn't just about sitting down or lying down.
Hmm.
There is a connotation with rest of like passivity, right?
Hmm.
Rest can
Yeah.
be active also.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
walk, building something, puzzling, putting something back together, painting,
Yeah.
drawing. That is rest
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Like a change in pace almost, right? It doesn't have to be a full slowdown, but just switching out of the normal routine can also be restful. I know a lot of people who would appreciate that suggestion because they're like, I literally do not know how to stop. I've
Yeah,
been working
I'm gonna be
like,
sitting down.
yeah. Like I've read, like can't sit down for a long time. I know a lot of people in my life who like don't even watch TV sitting. They're just very naturally high energy people. And it's like if that is part of what's authentically you, like embrace that. Like let yourself move, but maybe move without an expectation, move
Yeah,
without a deadline or yeah, result that you need to get to.
yes.
Mhm.
And paying attention to that too, you just made me think that sometimes people associate rest with couch potatoing, right? And watching
Mhm. Yeah.
Netflix
Yeah.
reruns or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Like, um, but think about rest as, is this nourishing or is it
Mhm.
depleting?
Mhm.
Because we can be doing something that can feel exhausted, but it's nourishing, like putting something together, a piece of furniture, or
Mhm.
um, but is it nourishing or is it numbing?
Yes, I think those are 2 because sometimes it doesn't take, right? It's still exciting to watch a show, but, like, watching it for like, there's a line, there's and for each of us, that line is at a different place. Because you can, like, for myself as an example, like, I actually lean on my phone games to make sure I go brush my teeth at night. I know I'm an adult, it's very silly, but it is something that, like, "Ugh, I gotta get ready for bed." So I add a little fun to it, but knowing that if I just play hours of this game is it's gonna have a very different and not very restorative feeling for
Yes.
me at the end of the day. Mhm. Yeah, and understanding that. Alright. Well, I hope this conversation of just like exploring like the things that felt like a struggle and that it's okay. It makes sense that it feels like a struggle and just like a few suggestions on how to like rest if you are in a place where you get to have those weeks off or those months off, but also when those weeks and months are done, how do we bring those vacation vibes back into the everyday basis as well? So we just wanted to share a few suggestions and a different way to look at rest. So hopefully it'll feel a little kinder when you're like, oh, I can't do it. I'm white knuckling it in this case. But if there are questions or just like, hey, this is the particular area where I'm really struggling to rest and I want to talk to someone about it, like Carmen and I are definitely open to just like having a conversation and helping you explore that as well. Carmen, what is the best way for folks to reach out to you and to connect with you?
Yeah, a couple of places. One is here on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I have to say that I'm not the best at being on anything regularly, but I will respond. Um, the same goes for Instagram. I'm at underscore colibri coaching. And the newest place where people can connect with me is I have a podcast that I launched in May called Dear Baby Girl Notes on Life, Leadership, and Liberation, which is an offering that is sharing stories, metaphors, tools that have come
Mhm.
from my work as a coach and a therapist over the last 16 years. And yeah, those are a couple places where folks can connect.
Wonderful. And it's a very sweet podcast. Highly recommend for a listen on that front. And for those of you who are seeking a little more authenticity or just a space to flex that muscle a bit more, you guys know me here on LinkedIn and YouTube. You're also welcome to reach out to me on Instagram at Coach Betty Chan or come over to my website, heybettychan.com, where I will be announcing more of these events, other tools to help you out. I often like to think like I'd like to meet people where they are. So if a baby step is what you need, that's what you need. And I have tools for that. Or if you want a deep dive, that's also something we can provide. And yeah, and hop on over to my newsletter. So if my memory stands with me after this talk, we will leave all the links and everything into the comments so you don't have to go hunt for those. But as I mentioned, Carmen and I don't bite. We actually just really want to make sure that you have a easier relationship with rest because you absolutely deserve to have that rest and that restoration as well. So please do reach out and say hi. All right. Thank you for joining me today, Carmen.
Thank you, Betty.
Bye, everyone.